They're not like us. They want to be us, but they're not like us. I met a white man in the mountains high. Like Moses, he thought he was. Claimed to be a seer, but was blinded by the light. Under every stone he turned in search of truth. Like the Olmecs, the temples of Angkor Wat, the holy temples of Shiva, the India black faces were there. Much to his surprise, from the black gods he could not hide. Cursed he could not sleep, life filled with tragedy he did meet. He saw black faces from clouds in the sky. From the elevated places, looking down on earth, he saw the ancient black faces. All of this that he recorded. Like a narcissist, he thought he was the chosen one. In his madness, he thought his collection of pictures, rocks and stones collected in his wooden safe was the Ark of the Covenant. Like from the Gospel of Thomas 77, Jesus says, I am the light which is on them all. I am the all, and the all has gone out from me, and the all has come back to me. Cleave the wood, I am there. Lift the stone, and thou shalt find me there.
The serious light. Whoa, whoa.
Greetings and salutations of peace. You are now in tune on the one, the force itself of this time. We call it the Holy Master Blaster Jamin. I am Ital Iman. In the year 1331 BC, the Zolkin was created. The Maya calendar was created by the plumed serpent Quetzalcoatl when Venus tilted on her axis due to extreme solar flares and CMEs. This Quetzalcoatl was none other than Thoth, the Egyptian, and Nangishzida, son of Enki, of Nibiru, the Sumerian gods. Enki was Ptah of Egypt. The year it is recorded that the Popol Vuh, the foundational text of the Quiché Maya, was written between 1554 and 1558. Our attempt here is to reveal the influence of certain words traveling through the annals of time, teleported telepathically to our time that has influenced us, and we wish to show you the time in which we live, the time in which we call Helter Skelter. And here we will reveal to you the origin of the term, phrase, etc. of Helter Skelter and right on, which in our memory come from the decade of the 1960s, the decade of the uprising, the original uprising in our lifetime. You are now in tune on the one. In 1331 BC, the Zolkin, which is the Maya calendar, was started by the Olmec, the ancient black gods, the god Thoth, or Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent of Central America, or the winged serpent. He was Nangishzida from the mothership that landed here upon the earth, plane of earth, over 445,000 years ago. Then there was nothing here on the earth at that time. So Thoth or Quetzalcoatl traveled to the Americas around 1331 BC the time in which Venus tilted on her axis due to the extrasolar activity, CMEs, solar flares, caused Venus to tilt on her axis. Naturally, at that time, or we can say divinely, it was time to create the Americas. So the artists moved to the Americas, led by Thoth, who actually had some disagreement with the gods of Egypt, but that is the way all the great sites, the spaceports, were created upon disagreements. There were men sent from the Americas to the Cambodia area. They are known to us today as the Nagas. These men are the scatterers. Holy Quran, Surah 51, the scatterers. It is recorded that the Great Pyramid slopes upward to the apex at 51 degrees. Thus the code, the scatterers, El Dariyat, the winnowing winds, the ones scattering the broadcast. Those of you who are farmers, who are familiar with the winnowing winds, the separating the wheat from the chaff, these gods, black gods, Negroes, were called the scatterers, the Anunnaki, El Dariyat, Surah 51, Holy Quran. You are now in tune on the one, the force itself of this time. We call it the Holy Master Blaster Jamming. I am Ital, Iman. So the origin of this phenomena, this enigma called Ea, earth, after Enki, Lord of the earth, son of Anu. So the plumed serpent created the calendar, and all the rest of the Maya people. Olmec was the original Maya illusion. The Olmec were the original Maya, masters of the illusion. Maya in the Hindi means illusion. So the Olmec are the fathers of all creation. The latter Maya, such as Kichi, their information came from the so-called Olmec, who in essence were Anunnaki. The collective Allah is the code. Allah, the Lord of Sirius, is a collective group of people, royalty, Anu and his children, the galactic travelers. The year the Popol Vuh, a book which is our focus here, the Popol Vuh, a foundational text of the Kichi Maya, was written between 1554 and 1558. This period corresponds to the time the Kichi people were seeking to document their cultural heritage according to the information on hand. This period corresponds to the time when the Kichi people were seeking to document their cultural heritage and mythological in response to Spanish colonization and the suppression of indigenous traditions. The text was originally preserved through oral tradition before being transcribed into writing by Francisco Ximenez, a Dominican priest. Q in the ancient Maya lexicon or language is pronounced she, Hiexi. So if it's Ique, anytime you see QU, it's key, as in key. So XIM, Manez, is she, Manez. And there is much confusion concerning that, but I'm not concerned about what current content presenters say because I am familiar with the culture, Dogon, Hopi, Maya, and Rastafari, Egyptian, which is the foundation of the knowledge that we need to be privy to in these final days. You are now in tune. The Popol Vuh, the definitive book of the Quiche Maya, was written between 1554 and 1558. This period corresponds to the time the Quiche people were seeking to document their cultural heritage and mythology in response to the Spanish colonization and the suppression of indigenous traditions. The text was originally preserved through oral tradition before being transcribed into writing by Francisco Ximenez, a Dominican priest who recorded it in the early 18th century, 1707 through 1715, from an earlier manuscript that is now lost. The Popol Vuh serves as a crucial record of Mayan mythology, detailing creation stories, the exploits of deities, and genealogies of the Quiche people, Highland Maya. Its composition reflects both the ancient beliefs of the Maya and their adaptation to new realities under colonial rule. So anytime you hear the term Maya, understand that the information or the education that they received was handed down orally, traditionally, Kabbalistically, or telepathically from Quetzalcoatl, Thoth, the Egyptian, god of the Americas, the feathered serpent or the plumed serpent. So this information is Anunnaki information, as Thoth, Quetzalcoatl was Anunnaki, sons of the god Anu. You are now in tune. Quetzalcoatl was a creator deity who contributed essentially to the creation of mankind. They were the first geneticists, Anunnaki. Created the humans in vitro, and in their book Popol Vuh, the humans are called mannequins, mankind, mannequins, mere puppets, mere mimes, mannequins. In the Popol Vuh, it talks about mankind, the mannequins were created from the monkeys. You are now in tune. This is recorded in the Popol Vuh. The Popol Vuh is a sacred book of the Quiche Maya people containing their mythology and history. It was originally written in the Quiche language in the 16th century, based on an oral tradition that predates the Spanish conquest. The text was later transcribed and translated into Spanish by Friar Francisco Ximenez in the early 18th century, and subsequently translated into various other languages. So that would be about 460 years in the year 1960. We're looking at the Popol Vuh. We're going to reveal to you two terms that was very significant in the 1960s. And that's about 3,290 years from 1331 BC, when the plumed serpent created the Zolkin, the Maya calendar, long calendar, Zolkin. So they set the metaphysical computer of time that we learn where we've been, where we are going, and where we are at currently. You are now in tune. I am Ital, Iman, the Rastafari journalist, author, poet, etc. Helter Skelter, as we can remember in the 1960s, Charles Manson and his group, they are remembered by the term Helter Skelter in their propaganda programmed into them by the CIA to start the revolution. It was their job to say that the black people were about to overthrow the white people, so they wanted chaos. And this topsy-turvy atmosphere was known as Helter Skelter. Remember the Beatles created an album, created a song, the Revolution album, song Helter Skelter. Charles Manson was programmed by that vibration. The term Helter Skelter typically refers to chaos or disorder, often associated with a lack of organization. In the context of the Popol Vuh, the Kichi Maya creation myth, there are indeed elements that reflect chaos and disorder, particularly in the early stages of creation and the attempts by the gods to create humanity. In the Popol Vuh, chaos is evident during the initial creation phase, when the world is described as being in darkness and silence. No one today is really given correct information. Most definitely, metaphorically, we are living in the darkness. In those days, in the Popol Vuh, chaos is evident during the initial creation phase, when the world is described as being in darkness and silence, with only the sea present, the gods, specifically Tepu and Gukukmats, the plumed serpent, deliberate on how to deliberate on how to bring forth life from the void. You are now in tune on the one, the force itself. At this time, we call the Holy Master Blaster jamming. Their discussions led to a series of creations that initially failed, reflecting a chaotic process of trial and error. Creation attempts. The gods first created animals, but find that they cannot speak or praise their creators. This leads, i.e., led to frustration among the deities, who then decided to create humans, the mannequins. However, their first attempts at creating humans from mud result in beings that are weak and fall apart easily. This reflects a chaotic outcome where their intentions do not materialize as expected. So in the flood myth, we find another significant moment of chaos occurs when the flood narrative within the Popol Vuh, after multiple failed attempts at creating humans who could worship them, the gods decide to send a flood to destroy these creations. This act introduced a dramatic upheaval in the narrative, akin to a helter-skelter scenario where everything is turned upside down. Finally, creation. Ultimately, after several chaotic iterations, including creations made from wood that lack true spirit, the gods succeeded in creating humans from maize, i.e., corn. And remember, corn was created in the Americas. These final beings possesses intelligence and can remember their creators, thus restoring order after a series of tumultuous events. You are now in two. The chaotic elements serves not only as narrative devices, but also symbolizes deeper themes within the Maya cosmology regarding balance and harmony. The repeated failures highlight the importance of respect for divine forces and illustrates how chaos can precede order. In summary, while Helter Skelter may not be implicitly mentioned in the Popol Vuh, its theme resonates through various accounts of creation failures and divine frustrations leading up to humanity's eventual success in creation. So in Popol Vuh, you will find the word that became famous in the 60s, Helter Skelter. And I hope that you, from the information that you have received from the eye, understand a little better the genetic vibration in which we move and have our being. So Helter Skelter was first found in the Popol Vuh, written over 400 years, or maybe around 500 years, in retrospect. Another word that we find in the 1960s, along with the term Helter Skelter, which was a very powerful word at that time, a word synonymous with the revolution, the 1960s, Black Panthers, etc., Charles Manson, etc., CIA, etc., was right on. Another phrase that we find in the Popol Vuh. The phrase right on, as it appears in the context of Popol Vuh, the sacred text of the Maya civilizations, is indicative of a moment of precision or success. The Popol Vuh is a foundational narrative that encompasses mythology, history, and cosmology of the Quiche Maya people. It recounts the creation of humanity, the adventures of gods and heroes, and significant events that shaped their world. The scene involving a log is where the word right on come from. Yesaya, you are now in tune on the one, the force itself this time. We call it the Holy Master Blaster, jamming. In one notable passage from the Popol Vuh, the definitive book of the Quiche Maya, there is a scene where a log is dropped into a hole with the intentions of hitting a target. This moment symbolizes not only physical accuracy, but also serves as an allegory for divine intervention and human endeavor. The act of dropping the log can be interpreted as an expression of fate or destiny being fulfilled, which resonates deeply within the Maya cosmology, where actions are often seen as interconnected with divine will. You are now in tune. Significance in the Maya culture: the log was dropped. The use of such phrase is in this context reflects cultural values surrounding success, precision, and perhaps even humor in achieving one's goal. The phrase right on, while contemporary in its uses today to express agreement or affirmation, captures a similar sentiment in the ancient texts, an acknowledgement that something has been done correctly or successfully. Thus, when considering how the phrase like right on function within the text like Popol Vuh, it becomes clear that they serve to highlight moments of achievement and alignment with cosmic order. This connection between language and cultural significance underscores how ancient texts continue to resonate with modern expression. You are now in tune on the one, the force itself. This time, we call it the Holy Master Blaster Jamming. I am your brother, the Rastafari poet, Ital, Iman. At current, we are in the mode of Helter Skelter, right on. I want you to understand this. Currently, we have nothing to fear. We should not be guided or influenced by the propaganda that we are bombarded with now. Some are on pins saying that China will close down our grid, our power grid, that the computers will go down. But have faith in the gods. Know that the year 2027 is a focal point, the 11th Dogon Sigi ceremony since 1427, when this information started becoming public, when the Dogon really started amping up the movement, 1427, that's 600 years ago, and the number 600 is very apropos. It is very significant at this time, as the rotation of the small star, our sacred star Patolo, rotates around the brightly shining star called Sirius A every 50 years, 49.9 years, and that rotation is celebrated every 60 years in what's called Sigi. And the Dogon say it is done to renew the earth, because every 6,000 years there is a pole shift. So this knowledge is ingrained in our DNA, and we are at the time of the resurrection. We are remembering our ancient past, knowing who we are. It is trending currently that we are the indigenous people of the Americas. Therefore, the resurrection is now, and we are the chosen. There are many who were called, many content presenters called, but the Rastafari Mystery School leads the chosen. This is the correct information placed in right order, right information. So we know that nothing will stop the law of time in human affairs. So after 2027, then that's when we bug out. But until then, you will hear wars, you will see wars, you will see earthquakes in diverse places, you will see tsunamis, you will hear all of this, because we are in the Helter Skelter arena, or the Helter Skelter mode. And we who know that Allah is the Lord of Sirius, He is the controller of all things, the scatterers, collective Anunnaki, we can chant once more in this revolution. It is not physical, it is telepathic. So we can raise our fist high and say, right on, you are now in tune.